Hey, welcome to Park Junkie. I'm Todd C, and on today's episode, we're going to be discussing the ever-expanding reservation requirements needed to gain access to our nation's national parks and public lands. We're also going to be looking into rec.gov. We're going to discuss who built rec.gov and how the fees that we pay rec.gov are going toward our parks and public lands. So stick around because this could be good. All right, well, I don't know about you, friends, but I'm certainly happy that somebody's stepping up to the plate and telling me when and how I can gain access to my national parks. Boy, spontaneous travel sure was getting old, and I'm super glad that they're continuing to advertise the parks through the Find Your Park campaign, despite the fact that they say the parks are just too busy. There's too many people out there, so we need to implement these reservation systems. But where do the monies from the reservation systems go? Now, I hear there's a $12 billion maintenance backlog in our national parks, and I'll bet that money from rec.gov is going to facilitate the improvements in the national parks and to address that $12 billion maintenance backlog. So, in order to find out a little bit more of this system, we're going to go over to our correspondent who's been looking into this, Junkie, and he's going to give us a scoop right here on the channel.
Curious about the rec.gov, are you? Well, let's take a little trip down the rabbit hole, shall we? The rec.gov about page reveals that they control access to more than 113,000 locations and some 4,200 sites and activities across the public lands in the United States. The website gives no information concerning who receives the reservation fees. It turns out it is they, the infamous they. In this case, they are a multi-billion-dollar corporation with deep ties to the post-9/11 national security surveillance state. Now, some time spent surfing the depths of the interwebs gives us a name for this corporation, Booz Allen Hamilton. You will have heard of their most famous employee, Edward Snowden. That's right, Edward Snowden, the whistleblower who leaked those classified documents showing that yes, indeed, the federal government was spying on its own citizens through the collection of emails and phone records. Now, you may also remember that in the months leading up to Snowden's release of these documents, a General James Clapper, Director of National Intelligence at the NSA, testified before Congress that no, the federal government was not collecting these data, at least not wittingly. Now, Clapper had spent time as an executive at a certain corporation prior to his time at the NSA. You guessed it, right there at Booz Allen. There are a number of intelligence community heavyweights who've enjoyed executive positions at Booz Allen. Folks like Mike McConnell, the second director of national intelligence under George W. Bush, was a former Booz Allen executive prior to his time at the NSA. After his tenure with that agency, he went right back to Booz Allen, where he remains today. Quite a number of folks have spent time with these alphabet agencies such as the NSA, CIA, and DHS, while going on to enjoy executive positions at Booz Allen. They are the definition of that revolving door that we always hear about in Washington. Now, back in 2013, Bloomberg News released an article titled Booz Allen, the world's most profitable spy organization. This article also goes on to detail the level of influence that this corporation has in Washington. The firm has long kept a low profile, with the federal government as practically its sole client. There's no need for publicity. It does little, if any, lobbying. Its ability to win contracts is ensured by the roster of intelligence community heavyweights who work there. It's obvious that this company has great levels of influence in Washington. In fact, it's even safe to say they are Washington. A little more research shows us that back in 2016, Booz Allen received a congressional contract to construct rec.gov. They were paid $182 million to construct the site and to operate it for 10 years. They also get 100% of the reservation fees, administration fees, and lottery fees associated with the website and its transactions. The parks get permit fees. Now, in many cases, the fees received by Booz Allen for their services far outweigh what the parks receive for their public land management efforts. In the case of Yellowstone National Park's backcountry system, Booz Allen gets $10 for every transaction, while the park gets $5, despite the fact that that permit may be acquired in the national park itself. Now, a quick look at Booz Allen's own website shows that in the fiscal year of 2021 alone, the rec.gov processed more than 9 million online transactions, 4.25 million of which were campground reservations. Now, if we look at a press release from Congaree National Park regarding its campground fee increase, we see that rec.gov gets contractor line item costs ranging from $6 to $8 per campground reservation. That means that in 2021 alone, rec.gov pulled in some $25.5 million just from campground reservations. It quickly becomes obvious that this is quite a beneficial side hustle for the world's most profitable spy organization. These are the folks that are getting the money from the reservation systems on our public lands. Corporate America. Always in the game.
Sheesh. Whew. Yeah, dark junkie. Man, I don't know about that guy. He didn't really have much good to say, that's for sure. Man, I don't know if I want to have him on the channel that often. But he does bring up some good points. I mean, I was unaware of the fact that a private corporation was receiving all the reservation fees, lottery fees, and administration fees through rec.gov. I just assumed that money was going to the parks. I mean, it is a .gov website, right? Now, the first thing you're probably going to be wondering once you hear this information for the first time is, no, that can't be right. Is this Park Junkie guy legit? Is he serious? Yeah, I am serious. And I'm going to provide some links in the description below so that you can go research this for yourself and see that, yes, indeed, Booz Allen Hamilton, the private corporation, does control rec.gov. They built it and they manage it today, and they get all the fees from it as well. The second thing you're going to end up asking yourself is, what can we do about this? Well, the first thing we can do about it, my friends, is spread awareness of the situation. No one knows about this. Spread this content from Park Junkie. Also spread the story from a gentleman named Matt Stoller, who just wrote on his Substack account a couple of weeks ago about how Booz Allen was renting us back our own national parks. I'll link to that story in the description below, and I'll also link to a story by Lindsay DeFrates called No, Rec.gov Does Not Fund Public Lands. Now, if you link to that Matt Stoller story, Why is Booz Allen Renting Us Back Our Own National Parks?, you'll see that he discusses something in there called the Federal Lands Recreation Enhancement Act of 2004. Now, that act was passed ostensibly so that federal land management agencies could have a means by which they would collect fees and therefore use that money to facilitate improvements in the parks. However, it was used as a gateway for Booz Allen. They walked in and started siphoning money right off the top. Well, as Stoller points out in his piece, that act, the Federal Lands Recreation Enhancement Act, it's up for renewal here in October of 2023, just around the corner. So what needs to happen, my friends, to make a change here? First of all, share this information. Share my videos, share Stoller's video and his story, and share DeFrates' story as well. And then, my friends, we need to make sure that we're getting in touch with our Congress creatures and telling them that we don't want these funds going to a private corporation. You see, Congress needs to renew this act, and they could easily, during that renewal process, move in and include language which tightens up the restrictions regarding third-party access to funds from public lands. And so, friends, it does appear that we may be able to have a positive influence on this situation and make a positive change in the future of our public lands. But it's going to take all of us. We're all going to need to share this information, make sure that people know how the system works, and then make sure we're getting together and contacting our Congress folk and letting them know that we don't want private corporations siphoning money right off the top of public lands. So as we see, friends, our access to public lands is under threat right now. There is a wolf in sheep's clothing at the door, and it already has its claws inside. We need to spread this message, make sure that public landowners far and wide know what's at stake and how the system works. Once we do that, we may be able to do some forest good, as John Muir would say. But we need to keep in mind his other quote, "Nothing tolerable is safe," and understand that those words have never rang more true than they do right now regarding this public land reservation system. My friends, thanks for tuning in to this important message. Share this with your friends, family, and public land users that you know, and together we'll move forward and try to get Congress to do what we need to protect our access to public lands in 2023. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll check you on down the trail. Cheers.